Welcome to the Craft of Coaching podcast, where we dive into what it truly takes to become a skilled, confident life coach. I'm your host, Kate, head of the CLCC or Credentialed Life Coach Collective, an ICF accredited Level 1 coach training program. We combine courage, coaching, and community to offer you more than just a training program, but a life-changing experience where you use your own personal transformation as the learning ground for supporting your clients. On this podcast, we explore how you can use coaching skills to support your clients or expand your own growth, all grounded in evidence-based coaching practices. Learn more about our program and get free resources for becoming a life coach at teamclcc.com. And now, here's today's episode. Hi, everyone. My name's Kate, and I really dislike the concept of a coaching package. There, I said it. I feel like I'm at like a, whatever anonymous meeting. Hi, my name's Kate. And I'm like admitting something that in some circles, people would be very ashamed to admit. But I'm hopeful that in this craft of coaching circle, I can just say, hi, I'm Kate, and I don't like coaching packages. And maybe y'all will be my people. If you have followed me for a while, you'll have heard me say this before, although I'm going to get into more detail about it today. And I'm also going to get into why I disagree with it fundamentally, and then also some mistakes that I see coaches making in the hopes that you won't get into any of that and you won't make those mistakes and it'll save you some time and some headaches. But at the same time, I feel like I should probably start with that startling admission because I have been a coach since 2006. That's right, I'm recording this in 2026. You just did the math, that's 20 years. Hundreds of clients, thousands of hours. I have also provided business coaching one-on-one. So I've been behind the scenes of many a coach's business. I have also created the Coaching Blueprint digital marketing program. You can find it at coachingblueprintprogram.com. Hundreds of people, thousands of people have used that program and found success with their coaching businesses. Yay, love it. Insert applause emoji. And yes, I don't like coaching packages. So first, I'm going to talk about why I don't like coaching packages, just so that we're all on the same page with what my beef is with it. If you have ever been to a gym and you've been trying to decide what type of gym membership you want, chances are very good, like if you go to a Crunch Fitness or a Planet Fitness or whatever, chances are very good that on their website or on some kind of little one-pager that's printed out that they're going to slide across the desk to give you, they do this at car dealerships too. So this should tell you something. They are going to say, okay, at the lowest tier, you get this. And at the middle tier, you get the Sparkly Sparkle Extra. And at the top platinum tier, you're going to get the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And that is actually the core of my issue with packages, is that it takes coaching, this work that is so profound, that is intricately tied to supporting people's mental health and well-being, and it turns it into like car dealership conversation where you're trying to figure out whether or not you should pay extra for the upgrade and get premium leather seats and debate in your head whether or not you'll actually use the sunroof. It's so... it just lands for me as so tacky. And the idea of having my clients have to sit through that and do some kind of mental gymnastics around that just has always felt so cheesy and so tacky to me that's really like at the core of it. So to me, it makes the work look cheap. It makes it look tacky. It just really, I think, undercuts the coaching industry. So, okay, there's my soapbox. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that soapbox, but that is the truth behind why Kate has an issue with coaching packages. It's something I talk about in the Coaching Blueprint. And in fact, I take a screenshot of, I think, a Crunch Fitness or a Planet Fitness. I can't remember which. And I put it in the Coaching Blueprint. And I actually ask the user of the Coaching Blueprint to consider, is this the experience you want people to have when they land on your coaching sales page? Where they're trying to figure out whether or not they'll actually get the results they want in the lowest tier. I mean, it's just so tacky and cheesy. So I just cannot. So I'm just going to come straight out with it and say that. And then now I'm going to get into creating coaching packages that actually work. And any time from here moving forward that you hear me use the phrase coaching packages, I am never, ever, ever talking about the tiered model where if you invest an additional, $50 a month, you can get the upgrade. I am never talking about that. What I'm literally just referring to from this point on, when I say coaching packages, is I'm talking about logistics. I'm talking about how many sessions over how many months. And I'm basically just crying uncle and for years, I've never wanted to use the term packages. And now I'm just like, you know what? It's a universal term. It's a term that the industry uses to refer to the logistics of how many sessions over how many months. And some coaches do it in that tiered way that I find so tacky and so cheesy. And other coaches are just literally going, this is my coaching package, this many sessions over this many months. And that latter example, that's just about the logistics. That I don't mind. I don't love the word still, but okay, fine. I cry uncle. The industry has taken off with this word. All right, we're aligned. You ready to go? All right, let's talk about it because we're going to talk about structure for your coaching packages. I cringe a little bit using the word. I'm sure it'll get better for me. But we're talking about structure that supports your client's transformation while not burning you out. Something that feels good to offer. Something that aligns with how change actually happens for your clients. Now let's start with the first problem. Most coaches set up packages based on what they see other coaches doing. They go, oh, that person does 6 sessions over 3 months. I'll do that. Or they go, oh, that person charges this much for a month of coaching. I'll just do that. Or worse, they have no structure at all. They just have an open-ended work with me button. And I say worse because there are different buyer psychology types that exist out there. And I'm here to tell you right now, I mean, this is something that, if I'm going to hire a coach, I already have a coach. But if I'm going to hire a coach, if I'm going to hire someone to do SEO or search engine optimization work, if I'm going to hire a VA, if I'm going to hire somebody for anything and they don't have the prices on their website, I'm not reaching out to them. Period. Hard stop. End of story. If you're not telling me what you charge, I'm not interested. So I'm just saying, some people are like, oh, it's kind of interesting to them to do the reach out and da-da-da-da-da. I'm not doing it myself. And I've paid big money to people before, thousands of dollars to consultants to advise me on my business, but they were upfront about this is what it costs. This is what I charge to give you my consulting acumen. So I don't think you want to go with no structure. I'm just going to put that out there. And I also am going to say avoid the tacky, cheesy, tiered, upgrades and sparkle package and the platinum package and all that. And today's going to be about how to get the structure of what you offer to match your style of coaching, your client's needs, how transformation actually unfolds. Because if you don't match all those up, you're going to feel weird about what you're charging and how you're offering your coaching. So let's zoom out a little bit. First things first. Why try to package what you do at all? Why do logistics of this many sessions over this many months for this price at all? Well, because transformation doesn't happen in a single session. We know this. Coaching is a process. Therapy is a process. If you were hiring a personal trainer, it's a process. Change is always a process. And if we want clients to invest in that process, we have to invite them into a container that supports change. So here's what you want your coaching packages or structure to do. You want it to support depth, not just a surface win. You want to give your clients time to integrate all of the insights they're getting from coaching and putting it into action. You want to help you manage your time and energy. And you want to create a clear arc, a shape to the coaching process, a beginning, middle, and end. So let's get into the biggest mistakes I've seen coaches make with packaging and how to fix them. Okay. So First thing, underselling time or overpromising results. Sometimes coaches realize that the thing that they are inviting a client to do is sticky and hard and challenging and difficult. Maybe it's working through some kind of relational, going no contact with family members and the whole process of how to do that, how to set boundaries, how to grieve, how to let go. And if you undersell how long that will actually take, if you know that someone's really going to need 6 months to shift something meaningful, don't sell them on 3 sessions. Okay? So underselling the time it's going to take because you're worried that people are going to go, oh, that seems like a lot of work. If it's a lot of work, it's a lot of work. And there's a certain amount of trust that I think you need to put in your client. Like just with the example I gave of if you're a coach who helps people navigate the process of sorting out these sort of complicated family dynamics and letting go of long-time relationships and how to grieve and how to have boundaries and all of that, your clients are probably smart enough to figure out that that ain't going to happen in 3 sessions. And the ones who aren't clocking that, you probably don't want as clients. Okay. I similarly think that this is something that happens often in business. As somebody who's a coach training provider, I definitely see it happen with other coach training providers. I've seen ads online that are like, get your coaching certification in a weekend. And they're doing that because they know that when somebody is excited about becoming a coach, or when someone really, really hates their job and they're desperate to get out of that job, the idea of like whatever's going to help me to do that thing I want to do fastest is really appealing. But for God's sake, who would want to hire a coach who got certified and trained in a weekend? For crying out loud, come on. That is just, So it's one of those things where the people who actually are the people you would want to work with are going to be thinking carefully about the fact that this is a process and it is going to take time. So don't undersell the time it will take. And certainly, this is the next piece of that, don't overpromise the result. Don't promise that someone will transform their life in a month if they won't. Structure your offer based on reality, not what sounds easy to sell. And the thing is, all you really have to do is just think through the graveyard of products that you've purchased that promised that in 30 days you would have some kind of result. A lot of weight loss products do that. It's like, you don't want to be like that. You don't want to like sell easy just because that's going to get money in the door. And then what ends up happening is you get a lot of churn with that. You get people who don't come back for more coaching. You get people who have no interest. If they've gotten burned on a retreat with you, they have no interest in coming later to like read your book or, do your digital program. Structure your offer based on what it really will take in terms of time and don't overpromise results. And I say this knowing that there are a lot of people out there who are going to do the opposite. And their sales pages are littered with it. And they're going to tell you this is how you get results. You got to show people how easy it is. If it ain't easy, don't tell people that it's easy. Second mistake I sometimes see people make: structuring packages or the logistics of coaching around what feels palatable to other people instead of sustainable for you. So for instance, group coaching calls. If you hate weekly calls, stop offering weekly calls. I know, wild, right? Like if you don't want to do a weekly call, don't create a group program with a weekly call just because you think that's what you have to do, or because you went through a program that had weekly calls, or because, you see what I'm saying? If you need longer integration periods, build them in. If the type of support that you want to provide between sessions is email support only, use email only. Don't say, okay, you're going to coach with me weekly or every other week or something like that, but you always have me on call in between. Really Ask yourself, what would feel so good for me to offer? And what would be so transformative to my client? And whatever is transformative to your client, by the way, should play a role in what's going to feel so good for you to offer. I think too many coaches build packages that they secretly resent, and clients can often feel that. So structure the packages around what actually is sustainable for you, not around what feels palatable to other people. And I think there's an energetic component in here that I want to speak to. And I know this can sound a little bit woo, but nonetheless, I'm going to go for some of the woo. I absolutely have sat down, closed my eyes, gotten into my nice meditative flow state, and then thought of a product, a book, a program, the service, the group coaching that I wanted to offer, and then just asked myself, what's the number that feels good? What's the structure that feels good? And I've just sat there and kind of waited for it to bubble up. And just because it bubbled up and something came to me that said, this is what you want to charge for this many sessions, or, this is what you want to do to structure this group program, didn't mean that I automatically got up from that nice meditative state and went, oh, there it is. I thought about it. I sat with it. I gave myself time to integrate. But at the same time, that energetic moment of going, what is sustainable, what feels good to me, is actually important. It's actually important. It's part of how you feel aligned and attuned to what it is that you offer. Okay? Next thing, leaving price out of the process. Now, I've already spoken to this a little bit. I said earlier, I will not do it. If you don't have a price on your website, I will not do it. If you are a service provider of any kind and you don't have a price on your website, I won't do it. I just won't. I'm like trying to think of the exact words for why I won't do it because I'm trying to come up with an explanation. And it's occurring to me that it's as simple as feeling like, why wouldn't you just give, unless there's an ulterior motive of some kind, why wouldn't you just give me the information that I need straight out of the gate to make a purchasing decision? There's something that feels manipulative to me about the idea that I would not just have the information that I need to make a purchasing decision right there on your website. So leaving price out of the process, I think, is a huge mistake. I think however you structure your coaching, it should reflect your time, your energy, your expertise, and the value of what you're offering that is reflected in a number that is on your website. And if you are underpricing because you feel bad, that's a you thing to work on. If you think that you don't know how you can coach someone until you hear what it is that they want to work on, and then you're going to somehow make a mental calculation as to how long it's going to take for them to work through it, I nudge back on that. Actually, no, I completely push back on that. You don't know the scope of the coaching relationship. And any coach who's been doing this for a certain amount of time is going to know that absolutely, you have clients who come to you and they start with one topic and you think, oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna work on this topic. Then suddenly, unexpectedly for both of you, it takes a much deeper turn than you had expected. And now there's this whole other scope to explore. You cannot honestly say as a coach that you know exactly how many sessions it's going to take to help your client move to the outcome that they want, even if you do a getting to know you call, even if you do some kind of discovery call. So don't pass the cost of discomfort for you on not knowing what to charge or trying to figure out how much money you can get out of someone by how long it's going to take with some kind of calculation that you frankly are just pulling out of thin air because you honestly don't know. Don't pass that cost on to a potential customer, a potential client, when really this is about how much would feel right to you to charge for an hour of your time and whatever kind of support you want to build in between sessions. Because really that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the time that you're spending on a call with someone coaching and the type of support that you are willing to offer between sessions. That's it. So ignoring price and not being willing to say, this is how much I will charge for this many sessions, or this is how much I will charge for 1 hour of my time, I think it's a big mistake. Last mistake I'm going to speak to, and I'm also going to get into some things that you can do in this episode to turn all this around. So if you've been taking notes and you're like, all right, I'm ready for some action steps, Kate, I'm here to provide that for you today. Last thing that I think is a mistake that I frequently see is that there are no accurate outcomes on a sales page. So earlier I said I think it's a mistake to overpromise a certain type of result. But equally as problematic is to keep it really vague, to not speak to any kind of transformational process, a before and after, here's what we're going for. Essentially, you don't want to promise results you can't guarantee, but you do need to clearly state what someone could expect from working with you. If you just say, we'll work together on confidence, that's vague. But if you say something like, what I speak to, we're going to work on your fear patterns, or we're going to help you identify the patterns that don't work and help you apply self-compassion and empathy so that you can start moving forward in your life, that's much more specific, and that's a reasonable expectation that someone can have from the coaching work that I'm doing with people. Fear patterns and the concept of a fear pattern is something that I talk about in my book, The Courage Habit. So people who have read that book often come to me for one-on-one coaching and say, I would really like to work on what my fear pattern is, how to recognize it more clearly, and how to stop getting stuck in it. That's an outcome. Now, I never in any of my sales pages guarantee that somehow from working with me, your life is going to be perfect and you're never going to get hooked by fear again. I don't do any of that. So again, you don't want to overpromise it on any level, but you do want to at least speak to some kind of outcome someone can expect from the amount of time that they've spent working with you. So now let's get into a framework that I recommend when creating your coaching structure or your coaching package, if you want to call it a package, okay? Because these are 5 really specific things that I think you can identify and clarify for yourself, write them down. And then the challenge that I have for you is to take action and make sure that you implement each of these. Not later, not in a week, not when you have time again, but like actually go to your calendar after I talk about these, make time on your calendar, get her done. And the reason that I'm going to push for this is actually pretty simple. I'm talking a lot about your experience of the coaching package process and all of that and what you as a coach need to think about. On the flip side of this conversation is your client's experience of onboarding with you. I mean, I've already said that, I've said it a couple times now in this podcast episode. If somebody's not telling me the price, we're not even starting the process together. Well, if you're telling me the price though, the next thing I'm going to want to know is, okay, well, that price for what outcome and for how long and what kind of support am I getting and what's it like to work together? And there are all these other questions that are going to pop up for me. This is me, the consumer, the client, having a whole series of questions. And if those aren't answered, each of those can become a roadblock to working together. So here is the framework that I'm going to recommend for you to structure your package. Okay, I still have a bit of an ick with the word package, but again, we're going to go with it. So first thing, start with the transformation. What is the core problem that your clients are currently struggling with? Describe it in detail. Transformation is about moving from one state to another. So what is the core problem that your clients are dealing with right now? And what is the core outcome that you want to help people reach? Again, you're not going to provide a guarantee and you're not going to promise that their life is going to be super sparkly and perfect as a result of working with you. But what's that transformational process? So take time to actually map that out. There's a point A and a point B that has to be there for transformation. What is point A and what is point B? Second thing, start defining the arc. which is like the in-between of point A to point B. What phases do clients typically go through to get there? And you're not necessarily going to map all that out on your sales page, but you should have some kind of idea if you're trying to figure out how long it's going to take for someone to get results from their coaching with you. What are some typical phases that clients are going through as they move from point A to point B? I'm going to go back to that example of the coach who wants to support people who are trying to decide, do I go no contact? If I do, how do I handle that conversation? How do I handle boundaries? How do I handle grief? How do I handle letting go? What does that arc look like? There's probably going to be a phase for every person in that situation of trying very, very hard not to need to go no contact, of shrinking, making themselves smaller, trying to get along with everyone, twisting themselves into a pretzel to try to make it work, phrasing everything very carefully, being really accommodating. At a certain point, there's probably also a space people will enter into of being actually really pissed that they keep having to do this and getting really fed up with how many times they're having to try again and make it okay for everybody, okay? And then there's probably a point where people are going, how do I put up a boundary? And then there's probably a point where people who try to put up a boundary, if the family dynamic is incredibly toxic and it's not working, they're going to need to go, okay, I got to speak into this. I set a boundary, you walked over it. I got to speak into this. And they're going to need some support with that. And then there's probably a point where they're actually going to say, you know what, I just need to take some space. That's very common before people go no contact. They try taking space and seeing if space helps people get some breathing room and all of that. And then they get to the point where they say, I got to have the conversation. And then they don't know what to say. And they're scared of how to say it. They're afraid of the impact of that conversation on other people. They're afraid that they might regret their decision. And then do you see where I'm going with this? So I'm like defining all these different pieces, and I've supported a lot of clients in this process. So I know what it looks like. And I've gone through this process actually myself in my own personal life. So define the arc. What phases are clients going through to go from point A to point B? In other circles, this would be called defining your customer journey. So there's a lot of stuff online where you can create a customer journey map. Coaching Blueprint speaks to some of this as well. But today I'm talking about defining the arc as part of how you will determine how long someone will coach with you and what they can typically expect the process to look like. Third thing for creating your package, map the support. How often will you be coaching with someone for them to get the transformation that you want them to get, for them to go through that arc? How often will you need to coach with them? And what kind of support will you be offering? Is it calls only? Are you also adding in email? Do you have a self-paced program that you will offer as well with your coaching? Is there some kind of private Substack? Is there some kind of private group that you offer? So map the support. And I would also say map the support from a place that respects your time and your resources. I personally ask of all my clients, and thus far I've never had a client violate this boundary, which is pretty impressive for 20 years of coaching and many clients. But mine is email only between sessions unless you are in crisis. If you're in crisis, I want to support you. But other than that, it's email support only. And even with email support, I say, you can expect me to respond to email within 3 business days. So I'm even defining the container of support I offer between sessions, including my responsiveness to that container of support. Fourth thing I recommend to help you create the structure for your package that works. Build in breathing room. Build in breathing room, especially for new or emerging coaches. A lot of times you're so enthusiastic about the work and you just want to offer more and more, and you just want to be so available, and you want to say, okay, I'll meet with you every week for a low price. Actually breathe. Integration time is actually critical for change. When I first started as a coach, if you wanted to work with me, you had to commit to weekly sessions for 4 months. And then I started to have more confidence and realized that actually people didn't have to meet with me every week to get results. I was a stronger coach and a more confident coach. And I also was realizing that that integration time really mattered for people. So don't just cram in sessions to offer more, build in breathing room. And also I will add that I think the integration time on your end, the ability to have some weeks in your life where you don't have coaching sessions, is important. And last, you need to get clear so that you can price with clarity. To get clear, here are 2 questions. What does it actually cost you to offer coaching to people? And that's emotionally, energetically, logistically, the marketing. It's not just the hour that you give to a client. It costs you something to offer your coaching emotionally. It costs you something to offer your coaching logistically to actually show up for the session. It also costs you something to coach someone in terms of the marketing that you need to do to attract clients. So it is very common for a brand new coach to price themselves really, really low. I'm talking like $25 or $50 a session. Okay. And that is fine. I am not at all knocking that. In fact, it is a strategy that I have frequently recommended. When you are in your first 6 months of coaching, super low priced hourly rates gets clients in the door, helps you build confidence, helps you learn more and more and more about who you are as a coach, exposes you to a wide variety of clients. Those clients provide you with referrals. Those clients provide you with testimonials. Those clients provide you with recurring income. These are all things that I think are critical when you're first starting out as a coach. But then at some point, you're going to need to say to yourself, okay, I can't do this $25 for one session thing forever. So as you're determining how much you want to charge, what is it actually costing me emotionally? What is it actually costing me in terms of the time I have to put into my marketing efforts, my newsletter, creating a podcast, etc., to be able to attract a client so that they come in the door? These are not ruthless questions to be asking yourself. There's a tendency sometimes for coaches to think, well, this is work that really feeds my soul, and I don't want, it feels kind of icky or weird to start structuring it like a business, but you actually do have to bring in some business principles. There is a cost to acquire a new client for you. If you are having to spend money on ads online to bring in clients, but then you aren't charging enough to actually recoup that cost, it's costing you too much. Now, in case that last one in particular felt kind of icky, I want to offer you a reframe. Your coaching package, your coaching structure is not just a business offer. It's actually a container for transformation. It's holding the client's transformation. And it's creating structure. It's creating clarity. It's creating commitment. That's a powerful container. That's a powerful container. So instead of thinking it's just about business or worrying that I'm sliding you into just thinking about a kind of business model, I'm actually going to pull you back a little bit and go, no, I'm not doing that. I'm saying that it's a container for transformation for your client. So in a safe container, you want structure, you want clarity, you want commitment. And if your packages have felt off for a while, don't just tweak the number of sessions that you offer, rebuild from the foundation. Start asking yourself these sorts of questions like, what kind of change do I most love to support? How long does that change really take? What type of support helps my clients to truly go deeper? What type of support helps me to stay energized about the work? Because you don't want to feel drained from doing the work. And then go build that. And if the worry for you is that someone's going to go, oh, that's too expensive whenever you land on your pricing, remember that's their capacity, that's their perception, That's not necessarily you lacking value. You are allowed to create a coaching structure that works for you and that also supports a deep change for your clients and pays you well and feels good to deliver. And I would like you to do that with no more guessing, no more comparison. I would like you to trust your data, your gut, your experience. So again, framework, TLDR, start with the transformation, point A to point B. What's the core outcome you help people reach? Define the arc. What's the phase, or what phases rather, do clients go through to get that transformation? Map the support, the type of support, how often support is offered. Breathe in time or build in time for breathing room and integration. And price with clarity so that you actually are pricing yourself in such a way that you are pricing according to what it actually costs you to offer the coaching. Now, earlier, I said, make the commitment to listen to this episode, get out there and get it done. So let's go build some coaching packages that actually work. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, would you help us out and take a moment to give us a rating in iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening? It really helps us get the word out to other listeners. And before you go today, would you like free resources to support your coaching journey? Whether you're considering becoming a coach or you want advanced coach skills training, access our coaching resource library at teamclcc.com. Again, that's teamclcc.com. Can't wait to connect with you. And again, thanks for listening.